friends, my name is Olivia. I make videos about books on the internet, and today's video is going to be an original tag that I created. So today we are doing the astrology book tag. I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I'm a big fan of astrology, been on a bit of an astrology kick recently, and I thought it would be really fun to make an astrology book tag where every single question coincides with the common traits about all of 12 astrological signs. A couple of disclaimers, obviously. Please do not be the person commenting down below about how astrology is dumb and fake and not real. This is just meant to be fun. Let's all just have fun. If you want to have a serious conversation about why I like astrology and why I see the value in it, I'd be happy to do that. Just like, don't be a jerk, I guess. If you feel like your question does not match your sign, please recognize you have an entire natal chart influencing your personality. It does not all just boil down to what your one sun sign is. Also, disclaimer 3, you kind of have to create generalizations and stereotypes to make these questions. Just putting it out there, just embracing it. Also, right before I turned the camera, I was like, I should look up and see if an astrological book tag already exists. And it does. So this is gonna be my version of it, I guess. I'll link that other one down below if you wanna watch it. I think that's all the disclaimers I need. Let's just jump into the video. So first off, obviously we're starting with the first sign, which is Aries. My moon is in Aries, so I feel a very personal, emotional connection to this sign. I feel like Aries are very easy to stereotype. They're moody, combative, passionate, very cut and dry, aggressive, impulsive, honest, and so this question might be a bit of a stereotype of what it is that makes Aries Aries, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So my question to go with Aries is, what is a bookish opinion that you feel so strongly and unwielding about that you would fight someone over? It doesn't have to be a controversial opinion, just an opinion that you hold very dear, and for me, mine is about James Potter. I love James Potter. I feel like because he is dead for the entire book series, and most of the flashbacks we get of him are the less positive parts of his personality, people often kind of get into their heads that James Potter is kind of an asshole, not really a good guy, especially people who watch only the movies. They tend to be like, Snape is the nicer person and James Potter is a bit of a dick, and that really bothers me because I feel like people always ignore the fact that there are so many amazing, interesting things that we learn about James Potter. One, he goes through the incredibly difficult and illegal process of becoming an animagus to help his friend. 2, he was such a good friend to Sirius. When Sirius was kicked out of his house, he was there to welcome him with open arms. 3, he was ready and willing to fight a war when he was 18 years old. And 4, when Voldemort finally came to his house to murder him and Lily, the last thing he says to Lily is like, take Harry and go upstairs, I'll try to hold him off. He had no wand, no protection, but he was willing to put himself in the front lines of Lord Voldemort to try and save his wife and child. The next sign is Taurus. Shout out to Tauruses. My stepdad is a Taurus, and I tend to very much appreciate this sign. They are stubborn, of course, very unyielding, but they're also patient, practical, sensual, down to earth, and I feel like if a Taurus is in your life, they're gonna be in your life forever. And so my question for this sign is, what is a book that you know is always going to be in your life? I feel like whenever I do any tag, all of my answers could be about Harry Potter. Literally every single one. So obviously Harry Potter is a really easy answer to this question, but I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to say Inkheart by Cornelia Funk. Pretty sure I've mentioned this book numerous times on my channel. It's a huge favorite of mine. I read this book for the first time in the 6th grade, and I just distinctly remember picking up this book, and I don't think a book had enthralled me this much since Harry Potter. I read it obsessively for nights. I slept with it under my pillow. I was just obsessed. I've read it so many times since then, and every time I read this book, I'm just brought back into that exact amazed, dreamy, wonderful feeling I had the first time I read this book. My sign are Geminis who I think often get a bad rap for being two-faced, but really, as an air sign, Geminis are very curious, very adaptable. They often move from one thing to the other because they just have such an interest in numerous things. They can be inconsistent, but they can also be very whimsical and inquisitive. And so my question for Gemini is, what is a book that introduced you to a topic that you didn't know much about before, but now you absolutely love? It could be a topic, a hobby, a theme, a genre, just any book that introduced you to something that now you actually really love. And for me, I'm actually gonna say In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. I had to read this book, I think for my junior year of high school, and it was the first time I ever read a true crime book, and I was just completely enthralled. I mean, it's an amazing book, it's written so beautifully, but like the way it was written, the tension, and also just the creepy interest I had in this really morbid and violent crime, I was just so enthralled. The next sign is Cancer, which I love because my rising is Cancer, but I also love Cancers in general. I think they're a lovely sign. It could have been very easy just to make this question, what is a book that makes you cry a lot, because as a water sign, Cancers are one of the most emotional signs in the spectrum. Cancers are also imaginative, tenacious, emotional, sympathetic, moody, pessimistic, manipulative. They're a very emotional sign. But one thing about Cancers is that they feel very strong dedications to their families. So my question is, what is a bookish family that you would love to be a part of? Of course, acknowledging that family is not always blood, friends, found family, all of that is a true family. My answer for this question is Blue Sargent's family from the Raven Cycle. I'm only on the 3rd book, so like please don't spoil anything down below. Her whole house is full of just these amazing female psychics who are very whimsical, creative, interesting, kind of weird people, and there's always people moving in and out, cousins staying to visit, aunts staying to visit, leaving and coming and going. I just think it would be amazing to be in a household that is full of such creative personalities, full of such amazing feminine energy, full of psychics, period. So the next sign is Leos, and this is actually the hardest question for me to come up with. I feel like it's very easy just to kind of stereotype Leos because they are extremely theatrical, rambunctious, creative and strong-willed and authoritative, but they're also very nurturing and very loyal and very magnanimous. I feel like what a Leo does best is just live their life honestly and encourage people around them to live their life honestly as well. And so my question is, what is a book that made you want to be yourself and take pride in who you are? And my answer to this question is Wild by Cheryl Strayed. There's this quote from this book at the very end that I always remember, which just says, "What if I was never redeemed? What if I already am?" Because she's spending so much time, I think, trying to focus on her mistakes and if she's worthy of forgiveness, if she's earned that. And at some point she begins to just accept that maybe this isn't important. Maybe I've already been redeemed, maybe I never am, but that's not what's important and central to me living my life. It's just a really beautiful message, and I feel like you walk away from this book wanting to forgive yourself and also just wanting to be yourself unapologetically. Next question is for Virgos, and Virgos are kind of known as the workaholics in the zodiac sign. They're very organized, very particular, very hardworking perfectionists. They tend to be worriers, analytical, shy, easily embarrassed. So my question for this sign was very easy to come up with. It is, what is a book or a character that inspires you to work hard and pursue whatever goals you have in your life? And my answer for this question is The Storied Life of A.J. Figgery. It's not so much a story about someone like working hard and pursuing a dream, but it still inspires me to work hard in a sense, or at least be present and pursue what I desire, because I think this book is a lot about a character who just realizes the impact of their choices, realizes that they have the ability to make different choices and that the choices that they make are going to have massive impacts on their life and their happiness and where they end up in the future. And this realization they have really inspires them to start just being conscious in life and present in the choices that they're making. And the next question is for Libras, and I feel like Libras are very hard to figure out. My boyfriend is a Libra and I still don't have a handle on what makes a Libra a Libra. They're very diplomatic, they're very fair, they're very justice-minded, as kind of indicated by the fact that their sign is like a balance scale. I want to focus on those main traits of justice and wanting to do what's right and wanting to do what's moral and fair. And so my question is, what is a book that made you think really deeply about morality and what is right and what is wrong? I have 2 answers for this question because one of the answers is very obvious, and that is The Kite Runner. My other answer is The Enchanted by Renee Denfeld. I read this book 3 years ago and it is a really haunting story. It follows a number of characters who are in a high security prison where a lot of these prisoners are on death row. It follows certain prisoners on death row. It follows the priest in that prison. It follows a lawyer trying to get someone off death row. And it stares very unflinchingly at brutality, at evil in the world, at horror in the world, at trying to dig yourself out of those horrors. It deals very seriously with those themes, and you can't not be very struck when reading this book and not be constantly thinking about justice. The next sign is Scorpio, which is my sister, so shout out to my sister. Scorpios can get a bit of a bad rap, I think. They're very moody, they're very secretive, their emotions are often all over the place. They're also very cunning and focused and resourceful and most of all brave. I feel like Scorpio's bravery is often overlooked because there's so many other traits of that sign that people associate more, but I think bravery is really central to what makes a Scorpio a Scorpio. And so my question is, what is a character that showed bravery in the face of fear and the face of trauma? And my answer for this question is all the characters, all the female characters in The Dove Keepers by Alice Hoffman. This is a really interesting historical fiction novel that follows a group of women. I don't remember the year, like the decade, but they're a group of Jewish women in the ancient times, like I think BC, and it follows this woman as they contend with war, death, disease, love, and just really difficult choices. It is so rich with feminine energy and feminine power. There's this really great theme of like feminine mystical magic in this book that I just absolutely adored. Next up is Sagittarius. Sagittariuses are a very kind of all over the place sign in my opinion. It was really hard to come up with a question for this sign. They tend to be generous, idealistic, really good at manifesting goals, restless, expansive, charming, independent. So my question is, what is a book with a setting that you just absolutely loved and would love to be a part of? My answer to this question is The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton. This book is set in 17th century Amsterdam. I don't think I've ever read a book set in Amsterdam, let alone 17th century Amsterdam, and I was just so enthralled. My favorite part of this book was the setting. Jessie Burton just researched this world so well that I could perfectly visualize how it felt walking the street, like what clothes you'd be wearing, what the vendors looked like, what the buildings looked like what culture was, what parties were. I was just so immersed this entire novel in 17th century Amsterdam, and it was amazing. Next up is Capricorn. Capricorns tend to be know-it-alls, unforgiving, very focused, very introverted, very disciplined, a lot of self-control, and very simplistic. And I wanted to focus on this idea of simplicity because I feel like that is really central to Capricorns. And so my question is, what is a book quote that on its own, even removed from the book itself, you find so beautiful and empowering? And I know I said I wasn't going to answer every question with Harry Potter, but I can't not do a Harry Potter answer for this one, because my answer is, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live, from the very first book. This is what Dumbledore says to Harry Potter when he discovers Harry looking at the mirror of Erised, and this is a quote that, for every time I read this book, up until my most recent reread, it didn't really mean anything to me. It was a beautiful quote, it was very powerful, but I never drew any personal connection to it. But the last time I read this book, I was just so struck by this quote and how much I need to remind myself of that every single day, because I really do tend to be focusing on dreams, and like what could have been, what should have been. I think I really need to remind myself of this quote to remind myself that I am living in the present. Those dreams are not going to have any impact on me. It does not do to dwell on them. I have to remember where I am in this moment. And since I've read Harry Potter the last time, I have repeated that quote to myself when I feel like I really need it. And it's been powerful. It's been impactful. Finally, Aquarius, my favorite sign. I'm an Aquarius, my Mars is in Aquarius, a lot of other things on my chart are in Aquarius. I just love the sign. I connect to it very deeply. Aquariuses tend to be very progressive, very thoughtful, rebellious, altruistic, cold, closed off. They often tend to think about the world and humankind in general. My question, very cliche, is what is a book that made you think about your place in the world and the world itself? My answer for this question is Eat the Document by Dana Spiata. This book follows two timelines, the 70s and the 90s, and we have activists in the 70s who create a political act of rebellion that goes wrong and they have to go into hiding, and then it follows them in the 90s, 20 years later, and kind of looks at where their lives are now. And this book just really forced you to think so deeply about political change, what kind of change is justified, what kind of change is not, what kind of sacrifices is okay to make. You just were so unsettled reading these books, thinking about these questions, because you left the book not knowing how to feel about these characters, not knowing if what they did was right or what was wrong. And I just loved it. It just really forced me to step back and look at like my own role in the world and my own belief of politics, and like really reevaluate it and question it and figure out what I truly do value. Finally, at the very end, we have Pisces. I love Pisces. My mom is a Pisces. My Venus is in Pisces. I think Pisces are a wonderful sign. They're very creative, very dreamy. They tend to be martyrs and feel like they're not really understood. And so my question is, what is a character that made you feel understood, that you feel a strong kinship with? And my answer, always and forever, is Mia Thermopolis from The Princess Diaries. I read these books constantly growing up. Even before I knew a movie existed, I was reading these books. And I felt so connected to Mia Thermopolis. I was like, this woman truly is me. Like, we had the same voice in our heads, the same sense of humor, the same insecurities, the same beliefs about the world, the same hopes and dreams. Like, I just could not believe how identical she was to me. So that is my astrology book tag. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you found the questions interesting or fun. If you do this tag yourself, that would be super, super, super cool. Please comment the link to the video down below because I would love to watch it. Comment down below any thoughts you have on astrology or these books. Tell me what your sun, moon, rising sign is. Whatever you want to talk about, feel free. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon with another video. Mwah.